March 9th, 1997, 12:45 a.m., Los Angeles, and the most famous unsolved murder in hip-hop history begins. 29 years later, the case is still officially open. No charges, no conviction.
10 years from now, we'll still be on top. Yo, I thought I told you that we won't stop.
And what has surfaced since that night, through blocked forensic investigations, documented confessions, FBI file releases, wrongful death lawsuits, and a Las Vegas courtroom that is active right now as of this year, tells a story that should have put multiple people behind bars decades ago. This isn't a conspiracy video. This is what detectives documented, what courts confirmed, what grand juries heard. 10 revelations, 29 years in the making. Number 10, the night that was never supposed to happen. Here's the detail that most people who love this culture don't know. Christopher Wallace was not supposed to be in Los Angeles that weekend. He had a promotional tour to London on the schedule. Life After Death, the double album that was going to cement him as the greatest to ever do it, was 3 weeks from dropping. He'd spent most of the past year on a cane after a serious car accident. Tired, banged up, and by multiple accounts from people inside that circle, Biggie wasn't feeling Hollywood that Saturday. He wanted to go home to Brooklyn, but he went. He attended the Soul Train Music Awards, then agreed to stop by the after-party at the Peterson Automotive Museum on Wilshire Boulevard, organized by Vibe Magazine and Quest Records. And she loves to show me off, of course. 2,000 people packed inside, 200 more outside trying to get in. The event of the night in Los Angeles. And here's the thing that has always pulled at me about that. The man who was publicly positioned as the face of East Coast hip-hop, at the peak of a coastal divide that was already getting people killed, got persuaded into being somewhere he didn't plan to be, in Death Row Records City, in Suge Knight's backyard, without the full security presence a man in his position deserved.
Trying to make some money to feed my daughter and all the niggas in the struggle, you know what I'm saying?
Around 12:30 in the morning, the party was cut short, crowd too large, announced over the system. 2 GMC Suburbans rolled out, Biggie in the passenger seat of the second one, his crew around him. They made it barely a mile.
From the Mississippi down to the East Coast, condos in Queens, N.W.A.
Red light at Wilshire Boulevard and South Fairfax Avenue. And that's where a dark-colored Chevrolet Impala SS eased alongside the Suburban. A black man in a light blue suit and bow tie lowered his window. 6 shots. 4 hit Christopher.
Wonder why Christmas missed us. Birthdays was the worst days. Now we sip.
The one that pierced through his right hip was the one that ended everything. Rush to Cedars-Sinai. Emergency thoracotomy. At 1:15 in the morning, the Notorious B.I.G. was pronounced dead. He was 24 years old, and in 29 years, not one person charged, not one arrest. That single fact is the foundation everything on this list sits on.
And if you don't know.
Number 9, the FBI files and what they almost buried. This is the piece of the investigation that most people who follow this case still haven't processed all the way. In 2011, 14 years after the murder, the FBI released its documents on the Wallace case. 8 years of federal investigation, hundreds of pages, released through a Freedom of Information Act request. And when those documents arrived, they were so heavily redacted that you spent more time looking at black ink than actual text. Entire paragraphs, section after section, gone. But what was visible told a story the LAPD had no interest in telling. Several of the LAPD officers on duty at the Peterson Automotive Museum the night of the murder had previously worked as private security for Death Row Records, a direct violation of LAPD policy.
much longer than yours, and a team much stronger.
And in the entire investigation into Christopher Wallace's murder, those officers were never formally questioned. The people responsible for crowd security at the last event Biggie ever attended, people with documented paid employment by the label in direct conflict with Bad Boy Records, walked away clean. Nobody pulled them in. Nobody asked the obvious question. The documents also confirmed that Wallace was shot with rare Gecko 9mm ammunition, a specialty round, not something you picked up at every sporting goods store.
No info for the DEA. Federal agents mad 'cause of flake.
The FBI noted it specifically. They never matched those rounds to a registered weapon. Never matched them to a registered owner. Now hold that detail. Because when investigators later searched the residence of an LAPD officer who became central to this investigation,
Bruise too much, I lose too much. Step on stage, the girls boo too much.
they find the exact same brand of Gecko ammunition inside his home. That forensic connection was documented, and then it was set aside, quietly. The FBI investigation also noted that investigators believed the Genovese crime family in New York might have had video or other surveillance that could contain evidence about the shooting, and those potential witnesses were never formally brought into the investigation. Just noted, then redacted.
There ain't no problem to get the gap where the true players at. Throw your rollies in the sky. Wait.
If you were following this in real time, reading source, watching the news, seeing Voletta Wallace sit across from cameras and calmly, patiently ask why certain leads weren't being pursued, you already know how this felt. That particular kind of helplessness. Number 8. Russell Poole, the detective who found something he wasn't supposed to find.
I got that good love, girl.
This is the man at the center of all of it. Russell Poole, 20-year LAPD veteran, robbery homicide division, primary investigator on over 135 homicide cases before he was assigned to the Wallace murder.
Until I handle my biz, there I is. Major pain like Damon Wayans.
This was not a rookie chasing theories. This was someone who built cases that held up in court, and when the department put him on the most high-profile murder in hip-hop history, he did what he had always done. He followed the evidence.
I got that good love, girl. You didn't know.
After months of investigating, Poole accused LAPD officer David Mack, along with Mack's friend Amir Muhammad, of being complicit in the murder of Christopher Wallace. Poole claimed he had sources confirming that Mack was raised in the same Compton neighborhood and affiliated with the same gang as Suge Knight. Mack was a frequent visitor at Knight's private parties and frequently wore red. That's not background color. In that world, those are connections that mean something. Then Poole found the car. David Mack owned a 1995 black Chevy SS Impala.
I got that good love, girl. You didn't know.
And Russell Poole wanted to run forensics on the car, run financial records on David Mack, but he was shut down by the LAPD. Same make, same model, same color, same year as the vehicle witnesses described at the scene. And the request to test it, denied.
Back I get deeper and deeper. Help you reach the climax that.
Then Mack was arrested, not for Biggie's murder, but for bank robbery, a separate crime. And when investigators searched his home after that arrest, they found a shrine to Tupac Shakur inside the residence, and Gecko brand 9mm ammunition, the same rare specialty rounds that killed Christopher Wallace. Found in the home of the man who drove the same car as the murder vehicle. And Mack's college roommate, the only man to visit him in prison, was named Amir Muhammad, a mortgage broker from Southern California.
Isn't this great? Your flight leaves at 8, a flight lands at 9.
Multiple witnesses were shown photo arrays, and Biggie's own bodyguard, Gene Deal, publicly stated that a man matching Muhammad's description was the person he saw approaching Biggie's vehicle that night. That identification never made it to a courtroom, and Poole never got to run the forensics he asked for.
Women I love with the passion. Your man's a wimp, I get that ass a good thrash.
Number 7, the order that silenced everything.
Went for 20 down south, packed up my tools for my raw power move. Glock 9.
Here's where it stops being a murder investigation and becomes something else. Russell Poole compiled his findings. He documented the Mack-Knight connection, the matching Impala, the Gecko ammunition found in Mack's home. the physical description of the shooter that pointed toward Mac's closest associate. He put it all in formal reports and submitted them through the chain of command. Then Chief of the LAPD, Bernard C. Parks, ordered Poole to cease all investigations of Officer David Mack immediately. The department's official justification: Poole's reports contained conjectural materials and inferences that could not be factually substantiated. The LAPD stated they could not make an arrest based on inferences that cannot be proven. And to be fair, the theory took serious hits in the press. Amir Muhammad came forward publicly and said, "I'm a mortgage broker, not a murderer." A follow-up investigation from the LA Times challenged key parts of Poole's case. Some of his sources were discredited. The theory was complicated, but here's the question Poole never stopped asking. He wasn't asking to arrest Mack. He was asking to run forensics on a car that matched the murder vehicle, to test ballistics on ammunition that matched the murder weapon. Standard investigative steps. And he was being told no by a department whose officers had documented financial ties to death row records, whether that was institutional caution or something deliberately worse. I'll let you sit with that, and I already know which side most of you are on. In protest of the department's handling of the case, Poole reluctantly resigned a day before his scheduled retirement in late 1999. He left part of his pension behind to do it. He later said, "I almost took my life, but it was my kids that actually saved me." He filed a lawsuit against the LAPD for violating his First Amendment rights by preventing him from going public with his findings. He became a private investigator. And he kept working the Wallace case for the rest of his life, until August 19th, 2015, the day he died. Still no charges, still no answers. Number 6, the second investigation, and 2 detectives who got completely different answers. Here's where the story gets genuinely, maddeningly complicated. The criminal investigation into Wallace's murder was reopened in July 2006 to look for new evidence. 9 years after the murder, and they're starting over. The man brought in was Greg Kading, veteran detective, gang unit background, narcotics, homicide. He came in with fresh eyes and zero attachment to Poole's conclusions, and after 3 years of dedicated work, Kading emerged convinced of something that contradicted almost everything Poole had built. In Kading's investigation, David Mack wasn't the architect, Amir Muhammad wasn't the shooter, and the murder wasn't orchestrated through the LAPD. It came from somewhere else, somewhere uglier.
Sky's the limit, motherfucker. See you chumps on top.
Retired LAPD detective Greg Kading alleged that Suge Knight orchestrated the murder in revenge for the September 1996 murder of Tupac Shakur. And here's what makes that allegation particularly brutal. Knight was in prison at the time Biggie was killed. He'd violated parole stemming from the night Tupac was shot in Las Vegas 6 months earlier. But prison, in Kading's telling, didn't mean powerless. Kading's investigation identified a woman known as Teresa Swan, a former girlfriend and mother of one of Knight's children. Knight was enraged after Tupac was murdered and solicited the murder of Biggie, meeting with Swan at the Los Angeles County Jail in February 1997, about 1 month before the Biggie murder. And through Swan, Kading believed the order reached a man inside Knight's most trusted circle, a man with a reputation that preceded him everywhere he walked in Compton, a man named Wardell Fowles, Poochie. 2 completely different investigations, 2 completely different theories, both with documented evidence, neither resulting in a single charge. Number 5, Teresa Swan.
niggas like dummies. I love it when you call me Big Pop.
A wire, and the prison visit that produced nothing. This is one of the most frustrating details in this entire case. Once Kading's investigation had Teresa Swan cooperating, they had a real opportunity. She described, in detail, her meeting with Knight in jail, the alleged instruction to have Biggie eliminated, the connection to Wardell Faust. It was the closest thing to a direct line from order to triggerman that investigators had ever had in this case. So the FBI made a move. They sent Swan to meet with Suge Knight in prison while wearing a body wire in order to extract a confession from him. However, Knight did not say anything incriminating during the visit, and he was never charged in Wallace's murder. Not a word. The wire produced nothing usable, and here's the legal math that followed. Kading's task force had Swan's testimony. They had her account of the alleged Knight order. They had a name, Wardell Faust, as the alleged triggerman, but by the time the investigation connected Faust to Biggie's murder, Faust was already deceased. He had been killed in Compton on July 24, 2003, after he was shot 10 times in the back as he rode his motorcycle. The alleged shooter, gone before he could be charged. Teresa Swan was given immunity from prosecution thanks to her deal with Kading. She cannot be tried. She has to live with what she knows. Kading later said something about that I've thought about a lot. He said, "Is that justice? Probably not. Those are the conditions." The task force disbanded for reasons of internal affairs. No charges were filed. For the third time in this case, an investigation that got close enough to see the truth walked back out the door without an arrest, and the culture got nothing. Number 4, Wardell Poochie Faust. The man who died before this case could reach him. I want you to understand who this man actually was before we talk about what he allegedly did. Wardell Faust was born in Compton. He belonged to the mob Piru Bloods. Suge Knight was affiliated with the same gang set. The two became close. In Knight's world, Faust was the kind of person you kept around for reasons that were never discussed openly. People who knew him described a specific thing in his presence, a stillness that told you everything you needed to know. Danny Boy, an artist from Death Row, said in interviews that when Faust walked into a room, something in the air changed. That you immediately understood he was not someone you tested. According to Kading's investigation, Knight hired Wardell Faust to kill Biggie Smalls for $13,000, the murder that broke Brooklyn open with grief. That sent Voletta Wallace across the country on a red-eye to identify her son. That left 2 children without a father. $13,000. Let that sit for a moment. Kading's book described Faust as someone Knight had allegedly used before, not just in the Biggie case, but in earlier situations where Knight needed a problem handled quietly. That pattern, according to Kading's investigation, was part of why Faust's name surfaced at all. He wasn't a random hire. He was a known quantity in a very specific world. But here's what made prosecution impossible. Poochie, the reported triggerman in the Notorious B.I.G. slaying, has been dead for decades. By the time Kading's investigation named him, he'd already been killed in that 2003 Compton drive-by. Kading noted the individual that killed Christopher was shot in cold blood 10 times in the back, basically executed the same way Christopher was, so there's a sense of perfect justice. And then he added, Is that adequate? You can't ask for anything more than a life for a life? That's not a verdict. That's not a courtroom. That's not a conviction. And a mother waiting for justice doesn't accept that as closure. Number 3, Keith D, the confession that lived in plain sight for over a decade. This is the revelation that the culture is still catching up to right now. Dwayne Keith Davis, known everywhere as Keith D. Former gang member, uncle of Orlando Anderson, the man Las Vegas police named as the prime suspect in Tupac's murder until Anderson was killed in an unrelated shooting in 1998. And for years, Keith D was everywhere. Documentaries, YouTube channels, podcasts, talking openly, not hiding, telling stories about the night Tupac was killed. Centering himself in the mythology, he seemed to believe that the distance of time and some prior conversations with investigators gave him protection. He was wrong. In 2009, Kading set up a drug deal sting to coerce Davis into talking about Biggie's murder, and Davis, facing serious federal drug charges, sat down and gave a recorded confession, on record, about Tupac, about the night of the Las Vegas shooting, about a bounty. In interviews, Kading cited Davis's statement that Combs once said to a room full of Crips that he would give anything for Tupac and Suge Knight's heads. Combs has denied those allegations. Keith D then wrote a book, Compton Street Legend, describing his alleged role in Tupac's murder in remarkable detail. He gave more interviews. He seemed proud of the mythology he'd built around himself. His trial was originally set for earlier, but has been delayed. The new trial date is August 10th, 2026. He's been in custody since his arrest in September 2023. And here's the part that directly connects to this case. During hearings for Keith D's Tupac trial, prosecutors have submitted thousands of pages of documents related to the death of Christopher Wallace. Prosecutors maintain that the Tupac and Biggie cases are connected, explicitly.
Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player.
In court filings, the defense argues they haven't had enough time to review all of it. Think about what that means. A Las Vegas courtroom. In August 2026, may finally air the evidentiary connection between both murders that investigators have believed for nearly 30 years. It may produce nothing, or it may produce the closest thing to answers this case has ever seen. Number 2, The Reckoning, Diddy's Fall and What It Reopened About Biggie's World. This revelation dropped in December 2025 and landed differently than anything in years. In September 2024, Sean Combs was arrested on federal charges. And when the world was still processing that, Netflix released a 4-part docuseries called Sean Combs, The Reckoning. Across its episodes, former Bad Boy Records insiders recount what they say really went down behind the scenes, including new accusations about Combs' involvement in the events leading up to the deaths of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. In the second episode, Bad Boy co-founder Kirk Burrows made a series of allegations that hit hard. He alleged that Combs pushed Biggie to travel to Los Angeles for promotion against the rapper's wishes. He ushered Biggie to his death, Burrows stated, and further alleged that Combs later lied about it being Biggie's idea. Burrows also alleged that after the murder, Combs initially promised the biggest funeral New York had ever seen, then moved to make the funeral expenses a recoupable charge against Biggie's estate. As Burrows described it, Biggie was going to pay for his own funeral in death.
time for this, so what, nigga?
Biggie's estate manager, Wayne Barrow, flatly rejected the funeral allegation, stating that Combs and Bad Boy Records covered the costs in full and that he had reviewed every royalty statement personally alongside Voletta Wallace before her death. The estate called the claims false.
Deeper than the pussy of a bitch 6 feet. Stiff dicks feel sweet in the...
But what hasn't been publicly disputed is this. Burroughs alleged that Combs tried to rewrite Biggie's Bad Boy contract after his death to make terms more favorable to the label, and that when Burroughs refused to cooperate, he was fired 90 days later. Now, these are allegations from one insider's account. Some are disputed. Courts have not adjudicated them.
This ain't no lesbo flow, just a little something to let you motherfuckers know.
But the questions they raise about who was around Christopher Wallace, who benefited from his death, how the business moved in the hours and days and years after he was killed, those questions have never been fully answered. Number 1, 29 years later, the truth that still hasn't been delivered. Here's where we actually stand in 2026. The case remains officially unsolved. 2 detectives, 2 documented investigations, 2 completely different theories. One pointing toward the LAPD, one pointing toward Death Row Records. The alleged triggerman, killed before he could be charged. The key witness, protected by immunity. An alleged mastermind who sat through a wired prison meeting and said nothing. A federal case against the man whose name appears in both investigations. A Las Vegas trial that may open the door. And a case file at the LAPD that is still technically active. On February 21st, 2025, Voletta Wallace died at 78 years old. At her home in Pennsylvania, in hospice care of natural causes. She spent 27 years filing lawsuits, appearing in documentaries, giving interviews, accepting awards on her son's behalf, building a foundation in his name, and asking, with a composure that I have always found heartbreaking, why the leads weren't being followed, why the evidence wasn't being tested, why her son's murder file sat open when so much had already been found. She went to her grave without an answer, without a charge, without a verdict. That is not a detail. That is the weight of what this case actually cost. Here's what 29 years of evidence tells us. Christopher Wallace was killed by someone in a dark Chevrolet Impala. The shooter has never been officially identified. 2 serious, experienced investigators reached opposite conclusions. The alleged triggerman is dead. The alleged orchestrator was never charged. The witness with immunity has to live with what she knows. And the one man being prosecuted in connection with both murders goes to trial in August 2026 on the Tupac charge. While thousands of pages of Biggie case documents sit in the same courtroom, what comes out of Las Vegas this August may be the last real chance this case has at anything resembling accountability. Or it may deliver another wall. Because the truth about cases like this, cases where law enforcement conflicts of interest, organized crime, label politics, gang alliances, and federal agencies all converge around the death of one black man from Brooklyn, is that the system is not designed to find truth in them, it's designed to manage them. And this one has been managed for 29 years.
I thought I told you that we won't stop. I thought I told you that